Ooh, I think I know her. All right. So welcome to the West March BoD September 2023 meeting. I have some wonderful news. This is going to be a short meeting. You can all applaud. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I am going to call to order and do the roll call in place of Jose Chavez unless somebody else would like to do it. Please feel free to volunteer now if you wish. Crickets. All right. All right. So we are going to do the officer members first, and then guests and monarchy members in attendance. Andy Brown.
Present.
Brian Ollett is present. Paul Wilkins.
Present.
I'd like to mention, of course, that Paul Wilkins is the representative for the monarch for this meeting, as per St. Kaya's wishes. Rose Brown.
Here.
James Anderson.
Here.
Wonderful. Ethan Kopich.
Good enough.
If I can ask, what is your position, or are you attending just as a guest?
My highest position right now is Monarch of Belial Peaks.
But, oh, wonderful. Yep. Note to self, we will not be declaring war on Belial Peaks today. No promises about other days.
Our archers stand ready to defend.
At this point in time, I do not see anybody else. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, we do have a quorum, missing our alternate, Victoria, and our secretary, Jose Chavez. So do I have a motion to move forward and do a reading of the last meeting's minutes, which is August of 2023?
Did anybody not read the meeting minutes?
I approve them. They're fine.
Okay, so we do not have to read the minutes. Is there anybody against that?
I move to approve the previous meeting minutes as posted.
Seconded.
The meeting minutes were approved. I will say for posterity that we did talk about diversity and inclusion, had some wonderful people present. If you have not watched the August BoD meeting on YouTube, I encourage you to do so. We are going to move forward with the September agenda, and thank you.
There was a meeting between the then and now.
That's true, but we actually already had a special meeting to approve those minutes.
Okay, that's true, and we printed them.
That's true. We are going to talk about the Wells Fargo handoff. We're going to give it to the Prime Minister, James Anderson. I will mention for posterity, those minutes were approved and held and publicly posted. Please connect with me directly if you would like your own copy. James, please feel free to take it away.
So following that meeting, I went to Wells Fargo and started the process of getting things transferred over. The first step is going to be getting me on as a signature, and then it will be getting me on as the operator of the account. They said that they needed some documents signed by Andy Brown, who would then send them back. They said that they would send those documents to Andy Brown. Apparently, they just sent them to the bank closest to him, which we found out today. And so he is going to be going in tomorrow to sign the documents, and then I will be going in tomorrow to finish off the signatory side of the documents. Then I think we go through the round again for the actual getting controller of it.
Thank you very much for that, James. For future reference, if anybody ever needs something e-signed in the name of West March as a not-for-profit, please feel free to notify me. I do have an e-sign client, and I can email you anything to e-sign in the name of the not-for-profit.
In the Wells Fargo bankers that I was talking to yesterday specifically said it had to be a wet signature.
Okay, good to know. I have a printer at home, and most people do. Let's make sure we're always proactive in the futures. This is me not pointing blame in any capacity, but don't trust Wells Fargo. If we've learned anything over the past 2 years, it's that trusting Wells Fargo to do something is a bad idea. And if we could move to literally any other bank that would be better, we would. But at this very point in time, we are not, which is sad. I wish we could. Is there anything else to add to the Wells Fargo in process? I don't see a problem with this at all, obviously.
I think we're good.
Wonderful. We're going to move on to special consideration. This was brought up and therefore needs to be discussed. According to the Capora, the board must have a quorum of 51% to conduct any business, which we do. Any member of the board who misses 3 meetings in a row shall be removed. We have 2 individuals who have missed 3 meetings in a row. Special situations may be given consideration by the board. I humbly request that we give special considerations to our monarch and our alternate, Victoria. Both of the individuals are serving because we asked, not because they wanted to. And because of that, I think it's perfectly acceptable that they miss meetings and support as they can, especially for the individual who made Paul their representative when they ascended to the position that nobody else wanted. I'm going to go ahead and say that we should give special consideration unless anybody else would like to speak otherwise.
I'm a little confused. Victoria was here last month.
Was she?
The
Yeah.
minutes say so.
Let me look. All right, well
Didn't
then
she make
ignore
the special meeting?
I have Victoria not listed, but I could be wrong. Let me take a look at the minutes. Thank you for that, Scoot. Andy, excuse me. Apologize for the delay. Looking at Jose Chavez's minutes. Oh, I see under guest. I'm very sorry. Yep, that's my bad. So we're good. Cool. In that case, it's just the monarch who made intentions that they would not be able to make this meeting and therefore had Paul step in their place. And Paul has done a solid job of making every meeting as far as I know. So yeah, ignore the Victoria thing.
Should we then have someone to replace Paul's position if he is going to be here as a representative of the monarch?
We discussed so we discussed that when this happened. All I am doing is if she has something for me to tell the group, or if the group has something to tell her, I'm relaying that. I am not voting for well, I'm not using the monarch to vote. So there's no double thinking. I'm only voting as myself.
Okay.
Okay.
Should the membership of the board of directors fall below 5, the alternate will become a full member and an election shall be held to fill the vacant seats until January. So technically that would make Victoria the voting member, and she has made many meetings. And if I messaged her and said, I need you here, I found that she's attended. So I think we're okay, but I'm not here to be a dominating individual. If somebody wants to say something, this was brought up, so we have to do it. So if somebody wants to say something, please, I'm in support of whatever changes need to be made. And
We
if
still
there's no,
have 5 members.
Yep.
Plus the PM and the monarch.
Right. So are we fine moving on?
Yeah, I'm fine moving on.
I think this is the beginning of a larger conversation that should be had to encourage people to run for positions, encourage people to step up and take advantage of the lack of interest in leadership positions to enact change that they want to change. If people want to complain about actions being taken, but not run for leadership positions, and we've noticed throughout this BoD session for this year, some people have definitely complained, but not run for positions. Well, we're going to start ignoring those complaints, and they can choose, if they wish, to run for positions and enact the change that they wish. I will not be one of those people. I'm lazy. Anyways, the next thing, I added this in myself. Look the part is a very big part of V9. So why is look the part not a part of the board of directors. And so I am going to make a recommendation that we add some power to the board of directors. All right. So here we go. Can everybody see the BOD look the part on their screen? All right. So if you want to level up your BOD position, you get 1 point for each aspect you combine during meetings. A bored, sleepy expression. Perhaps your camera is even off. Obviously drinking during the meeting. Suit and tie, perhaps, or just no shirt at all. Maybe you have a clipboard and a clicky pen. Maybe there's a cat on your screen, or you have a fancy background like James has, who just grabbed a clipboard. Oh my God.
Do multiple clipboards count for more?
All right. So if you look the part, you get to move to the next level of your BOD position. 1 to 3 points, you get an extra vote on all topics. 4 points, you get to immediately cancel discussion on any topic whatsoever. 7 points, you can immediately end any BOD meeting without a vote or a second. 8 points, you technically can't get 8 points because there's only
I
7
see
things.
that.
You are allowed to karaoke at any point during meetings, and everybody has to listen. So I think this is a wonderful thing to add to the board of directors. I think with a majority vote, we can enact this. Does anybody want to second my incredibly brilliant idea? All right.
I
There
move
we
to table
go.
this motion indefinitely.
I move to make this the, what do you call it? The document that says what a business is all about. What's that
Mission
called?
The
statement.
mission statement?
Yes. Yes,
We-
I move to make this the mission statement of the BOD.
Do we have anybody seconding the mission statement to the BOD? Do we have anybody second tabling this indefinitely?
I will second tabling this. Also, board sleepy expression is no longer on the thing. We're not doing audits every 6 months anymore.
That's true. Hard to do with audits. Gone.
Without audits. Oh, yeah, gone. That's a
Yeah.
better word.
Okay. So there we go. If you can find a way to do suit and tie and no shirt at the same time, I think you get bonus points and can get 8 points. I think that's important.
I mean,
Anyways,
I could. do it,
I
just
think you
wouldn't.
need to make it suit and tie or evening dress.
oh, that's a fair point. That's a point. Or other evening attire.
There you go.
Yeah, you got to keep that inclusivity in there.
Absolutely. I apologize for lacking any inclusivity. All right, we're gonna go to back to the itinerary for West March Board of Directors meeting. I think this has been tabled indefinitely. Is that correct?
That did seem to be the majority opinion.
I'm disappointed in all of you, but that's okay. All right. Our monarch, for the next topic, our monarch has requested a ledger request from all parks for 2022 and 2023. This is based upon, and I'm going to ask James for help with this, and I apologize for putting it on you as well, but we are having some tithing processes being done currently, and because many parks have not made their payments or have not presented adequate documentation, our monarch would like to have all parks submit their ledgers for 2022 and 2023. Andy and James, for the board of directors, we can perform unsolicited audits of the kingdom financial records. I don't know if that means the parks financial records. We can audit all records at the end of each prime minister's term. And I pasted that there. Can we look at the land's ledgers or budgets or whatever you want to call it? Does the BOD have that power?
No, the monarch does.
I think we've always had that power. That's what the treasurer's job is.
So the treasurer has the power to do an audit of the kingdom ledgers. The monarch has the power to do an audit of any land.
Yeah.
No, my understanding was always that the treasurer of the BOD has the ability to audit lands.
Does the
Why
kingdom
would-
financial records include the lands that the kingdom oversees? That's the question.
They're
And that
incorporated
was
under-
answered last time as no. We do
Well,
not
they're
report
incorporated
land
under us.
balances.
I think they
They're not,
necessarily
though. We do not report them to the state or the Fed. That means we do not include them as ours.
Quick question, if I can jump in here,
No.
or I guess a quick statement.
Yes, of course. Everybody always has open mic in my BOD meetings. You can say whatever you want at any point in time.
Okay, perfect. So Article 9 under Sponsored Chapter, Section 2, Audits. The monarch may initiate an audit of any sponsored chapter at any time to ensure smooth operation of the sponsored chapters. Subsection A, monarch may request other monarchy members or BOD to assist with the audit.
Yes. So we can assist the monarch. The thing is that we do not independently have ability, which is what the question was.
I
The
believe
monarch
I am
has the
screen-
independent ability.
Thank you for that, Rose. I believe I'm sharing the section of audits that Ethan is talking about. And thank you very much for that. I want you to know that our monarch, who was kind enough to step forward and serve, and when nobody else wanted to be monarch, did ask myself and James to perform this audit. So if that is the case, then there we are.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
one other quick thing. If you scroll up to Section 1, bullet point 3, the Kingdom Prime Minister is actually required to audit the lands.
The Kingdom Prime Minister is required to audit each land's records to ensure a member is only
For
counted
counts,
once
yeah.
inside the kingdom each week. Well, that's insane.
Yeah, and then that's for voting as well. There's some issues with the Capora.
Wait, I'd like to interrupt there. There are some issues with the West March Kapor. That is the understatement of the century. Like, it's kind of hot in the Sahara. Thank you, Ethan. Please feel free to interject at any point in time. That is incredibly valuable information. I appreciate that very much. So yeah, how can we, should we just send a message to all the prime ministers of each land saying, please send us your ledger? And then in October, we have to pour over it? Like, what should we do here?
I can certainly add that to the tithe discussion we are already having.
Yeah. I don't really have that much of a problem with that being done, and it should be very easy for any lands to do because lands should be maintaining ledgers, so sending that in should be as easy as here's, a copy of either our physical or our digital ledger. My question is more towards how does this help with the fact that the kingdom wasn't keeping record of who paid tithes or not?
So this is merging the audit and the tithe together, but the kingdom does have records in their ledgers of who paid. That just, they hadn't gone through and I see a tortoise.
He has credits in the org.
That's not a cat.
I get what you're saying, but from what was
the downside, what was not being done was taking that list of Sergeta paid, Wavehaven paid, Wavensburg paid. It wasn't being put into a table of what lands had not paid, and that's where we started having problems.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, auditing the lands doesn't really help with that because that's a West March management issue. Like, it should have been the prime minister looking at it and saying, hey, you guys haven't tithed, not the lands coming forward and doing it because maybe they just didn't want to tithe that time,
I agree with you. I am trying to rectify that now that I am prime minister.
Yeah. I'm not even saying it as necessarily like a huge criticism thing, just like people are talking about processes to try and fix it, and I see a bunch of people throwing up, oh, we should have yearly audits of the lands, and I'm like, that wouldn't have fixed the problem.
No,
Yeah.
So when I first noticed the problem, I first told the Prime Minister chat, hey, here's the lands that I have received tithes for. Check your audits or check your own ledgers. If you show something that you paid and I don't have it, we have a problem.
Yeah.
That is where the individual land ledgers came in.
Yeah.
And so far as I know, I have had some say, certainly, oh, I looked at my ledger, we didn't pay tithes, and they're ready to pay them. Others have not gotten back to me yet. I have not heard anyone report a problem with their own ledgers yet, but it's only been a week and not everyone's responded.
James,
Yeah.
would you be okay if I shared the tithing for 22-23 that is currently in the works? Would that be beneficial to this conversation?
The table that I shared with the Prime Ministers, that is fine.
All right, I'm going to share this now with the permission and approval of James. Right now, here is what we have, and it's very important. Well, can everybody see the tithing summary at this moment?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's very important to say that right now we are on the tail end. Well, I guess I'm going to say it. We're past the pandemic at this point in time. There's several parks which have not done their tithes. That doesn't mean it's important. That doesn't mean it's not important, but some parks are participating and some parks aren't. James, would you like to go into further detail on this?
Right. So yeah, I have a further spreadsheet that includes past years. 2020 and 2021, we did not ask for tithes because of pandemic reasons. Some people paid directly, which I have down at the bottom. That took some figuring out, but those then became credits towards tithes when we started collecting tithes again. The people in blue paid for a full year at a time. So what we're looking for now is saying, all right, fall 2023, we do need your tithes for fall. The question becomes spring and fall of 2022 and spring of 2023. How hard do we want to be on lands that did not pay their tithes?
This brings up a twofold question. Do we forgive people who didn't pay their tithes? And if so, what do we do to lands like Wyvern Spur and Bremen's Fortress that did pay their tithes? Do we just say thank you? Do we offer to refund? Or do we just say, hey, we're forgiving the lands that didn't, but we're going to hold everybody to a higher standard come spring of 2024?
So here is my opinion on this for the first part, and I'm just going to throw in for the first part. Lands not paying tithes and still getting to vote, which is what the issue is, was totally on West March Monarchy and management overseeing, and the fact that we didn't inform lands that they had not paid tithes and would not be able to vote is on us. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't think that lands who don't pay should be able to vote. And if it's a barony or a duchy, if they have no voting members, so they're not paying any tithes. I mean, that's the assumption. If they're not paying tithes, that they have no voting members, then at some point it's time to talk about demotion.
I agree with that. If you don't have any voting members, then we don't have a lot as per the Kapora, and I'm going to talk to our Kapora master, Ethan, about this, of course. I don't think we have a lot of recompense to punish lands that don't tithe outside of demotion. And I'm not saying we need to be demoting
and
things.
Them not having a say in how the kingdom gets run.
Yeah, that's what the negative is supposed to be, not having a say.
Got it. Perfect.
I don't think
I have a bit of a
necessarily
suggestion.
fair to demote people just because they don't want to vote on stuff.
If you are a duchy that has no voting members, you do not need to be a duchy. you need to focus less on 8th level orders and more on building a base of leadership.
What duchies didn't pay tithes?
Our two
I-
duchies are the lands that have been on the most on top of things.
I don't know. This is theoretical. This is a
This
duchy
isn't theoretical.
that
We have
doesn't
things
pay-
in there.
It's a duchy or barony that doesn't pay for probably, I'm gonna guess, more than one reign. Or and then you have to start asking, like, what's going on with your land, and should you remain at the level you're at? I think it's.
I don't really see why them not wanting to take part in kingdom issues means they should go down in land size.
If you're a duchy or a barony and you have no voting members, that means you have no voting members for your land. Remember,
Yeah.
to vote in one of
Well-
our lands, you have to have voting members.
You could technically pay tithes to your own land and not pay tithes to the kingdom.
I don't think you can.
No. So if they're not paying tithes, that means they have 0 voting members, even in their own elections.
Which means
So
that
how are they even running?
it would mean that all of their monarchy is pro tem, which is possible.
Nope, pro tem has to pay dues too.
Yeah.
All
Look,
voting members
Actually, really
must
funny.
do
Pro
as
tem doesn't exist. Every requirement to run for office is the requirement to be pro tem.
That's right.
It's actually harder to be pro tem.
After
Ooh,
we
hi Dagger.
after we
Oh, hello.
removed quals, that became that's true.
Yeah.
So the current ruling on tithes is that tithes are supposed to be collected 1 month after the prime minister is elected. So it's a month after mid-reign. If within 3 months they do not pay, that land does not get to vote on kingdom issues.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, for demotion, that requires an alding. There is no other way around it. It requires an alding. So like the BoD could recommend it to an alding, but the BoD has no power short of stripping the entire chapter of everything and just like kicking them out of Westmarch, which would be, pulling their contract with Westmarch is basically the only power the BoD has directly there.
I would like to
Yeah.
mention that the monarch of Belial Peak said the BoD has the power to strip.
Well, you talked about going shirtless earlier, so.
Yeah.
Well, I had a suggestion that I was going to say earlier, that it's not really so much a punishment as it is an actual smart logistic thing to do. But one of the things you could do for people who don't pay tithes is just take them off of the CA Amtgard list of active lands. Like, oh, it doesn't look like you're active. We don't want people showing up to a park that doesn't have anybody.
We could not do that because the definition of active is having people show up. If they still have people show up, they are still active.
A
And they still have a
non-voting
contract with
member,
true.
Westmarch.
But we
As
do
per-
still have parks that aren't active at all that are still listed, so getting that fixed would be nice too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, that is legit. It would be nice to take off the defunct parks.
Article 2 membership, types of membership. A non-voting member need not meet any attendance requirements nor pay dues in the kingdom. They must have a signed waiver on file with their local prime minister. A voting member must XYZ. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't punish people for not wanting to vote or not paying dues. And Lord knows Westmarch needs to increase its attendance anyways. So
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is just make sure that the documents are up to date. We have people that are not tithing, and that's fine, but they need to report that they're not tithing if
Yeah.
they truly don't have any voting members.
So far, every PM that I've talked to, when I've brought up tithes, has been willing to get on this and pay the current, and some have already been willing to pay the back. So
Yeah.
So how many people are getting away with voting without having paid dues? Because it certainly looks like we've got more people voting on all things than we have that are tithing. It seems like if we looked at the tithe summary from September that's currently active, it looks like we have twice as many people voting as we have tithing. And I think that's a problem.
I would agree with that. And I would like to put forward a suggestion that in order to keep this from happening as much in the future, after the month grace period of the PM being elected, we review who has tithed or not, so that there is some process of having people look at that.
3 months.
Yeah, well, we could do it a month after and then let people know, hey, did you know you didn't tithe? You haven't tithed for a month. In a couple months, you're not going to be eligible to vote, you know, and that would just help with this transferring of the prime ministers. It wouldn't put remembering that, hey, that's a thing entirely on someone who maybe is absolutely new in office and hasn't, you know, gone through it before. But like, we could just do a check-in and be like, hey, Prime Minister, could we have a list of how many parks have tithed?
Well, let's make sure we get out to that. James, do you need help contacting all the parks? You already do a ton of stuff, and I want to say that publicly because thank you for constantly serving on monarchy positions. Do you need help with any of this? What can we do to help you?
Contacting the PMs, I've generally been pretty successful at being able to get a hold of them. PMs are the one person at the park who is likely to be
Socially connected.
You haven't contacted the Shire Gata PM.
They've been on top of things.
Ew.
They already paid.
Ew.
And I know Belial Peaks just elected a new PM because our last PM was failing to properly respond. So,
Yeah.
if the PM is failing to respond, I recommend elevating to their monarch.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes. I will put in this ledger of lands that have paid was already in the West March ledger. It had not been updated since it had individuals who had paid in 2021, but it did not have a list of lands that had paid since before 2021.
We are working on that. That is 3 things down in the September itinerary. That is on the list. And I've been lazy on that. That's me. That's on me.
So we now have this new summary that I put up in the drive. That is.
Did you create the summary, or was that something that you just updated?
The summary that I shared is something that I created.
Awesome. I love your summary, and I definitely think PM should have to use it going forward. It looks like it makes it much easier to see than other stuff that's been shared before.
I do have a quick question though. Why is one of the cells for SG's dues different color?
Because that was updated after I had already posted it. To show that it was updated after I posted it. And it was because of individually, it was figuring out some financial things on people who had individually paid, and then half that got later converted into being the spring ties.
Okay.
Yeah. That was an awkward period.
I am familiar with that issue now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for doing that. And thank you to Rose for taking care of my job as West March PM. She's the one that actually did the tithing because she's been PM for like 3 years in a row. So thank you for that, as always, Rose.
I haven't been PM for 3 years in a row. I've been
Like
PM
it.
for 2 reigns.
It seems like it. Anyways, so I'm going to suggest that we table the tithing for October, collect the information, and when we get all the information, let's try and go over it before the October Board of Directors meeting. Is that okay?
I would rather get an information now. Well, for October, that might be okay, but I'd like to get a decision now on a recommendation regarding past due ties.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm going to open the floor. I've got my opinions, but please, let's hear from everybody here, including Ethan. What should we do about tithing? And I'm gonna screen share the tithing screen again. What should we do about spring 2023 and fall of 2022? And we'll go ahead and say spring of 2022. The lands that didn't tithe, are we forgiving them? Are we giving them an issue of notice? Are we demoting them, or are we demanding payment? What are we doing?
Can you clarify what issue of notice means in this context?
Bad. Stop. No more.
Admonish them.
Tell them don't do it again.
waggle the finger. I would throw together something in a PDF format, and I would say, hey, this is something that we need to address. It is noted that certain places maybe haven't made a payment for over a year, and at this point in time, moving forward, if it continues, we will take action. Basically,
Okay.
that's what we would say.
My question is, do we know that the Kingdom PMs during that period contacted the local PMs, or did we just let it go?
I'm pretty
I'm
sure.
pretty sure they, yeah.
I feel like we can't be too upset, and that is a failure of leadership at the Kingdom level.
I agree
I
completely
agree.
with that. West March has a unfortunately terrible track history of keeping up on documents. Eric, thank you for joining the meeting. You have your hand raised. Is there something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask because Rose had said earlier something about them maybe not having been told like that after COVID is over, we're expecting payments. So like I might just instead of like a reprimand, more like a, hey, we noticed you haven't paid dues. What can we do to help you? You know, what's your plan going forward? And then set a date of like from now on, we are expecting these to be done.
I
That's
like
a great
that.
idea.
Yeah. I think it's also important to bear in mind the fact that the people who are PMs right now are not the people who have been PMs in the past.
Yeah,
So
I
the
have been very aware of that as well. It is
Yeah.
not the current people's fault.
I
Yeah.
also have a higher expectation for Kingdom leadership than I do local leaders.
Yep.
When I was the first time I was a PM at for TR, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And
And
we,
also the amount we take in as tithes is like a drop in the bucket for the funding of West March. So yeah, I would feel a little differently if like West March were hard up for cash. But you know, most of the parks have less than 10 people at them anyway. So the like 5 people who haven't tithed is not really going to make a big difference to West March's funding.
I think we should be servicing and raising up the parks for what they're doing. I like Eric's recommendation of making a positive statement of offering to help as opposed to chastising or criticizing. Positivity. You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that.
So
Yeah.
James, is that something you're gonna do, or do we need to
I
have somebody else take
volunteer to
action?
write up the statement and provide it to the treasurer of the board of directors and the prime minister of West March to let them disseminate it if they so choose.
Okay.
So from a corporate perspective, real fast, the only thing that tithes gives is it allows that land to vote. So unless we wanted to go back and do an audit of did lands that didn't tithe vote, or were their votes counted? You know, that's what.
I don't need to do that because I know I kept a pretty good track of how many votes there were, and it was always way more than the number listed on.
Yeah, but it would have to be
the
done
sheet.
per land, right?
Yeah.
So
Are
you know,
you-
it could
But,
be
like-
that some lands just submitted more votes than they had voting members or whatever, which
Yeah.
would also be a different
Well,
problem.
they
think
are
spending-
supposed to submit a list of their dues paid members along with the votes. So hopefully they have been doing that. And so at least the people were dues paid. They just didn't pay the kingdom.
I think
So-
spending a lot of time on spilled milk is putting energy in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it comes down to is like basically, unless you wanted to go back and like say that the votes changed now because these members weren't actually supposed to have been counted, which I think is just going to cause way more issues than it's probably worth. I don't think there's a like much official action that can be done. Obviously, you know, you can
Yeah.
always write up a letter and name and shame. But that's about it, I think.
Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that very much. And Paul, spending too much time over spilt milk as opposed to going and milking the cow again is what we need to do. I think providing a higher level of support and holding people accountable to what we consider the bare minimum, which is just report your voting members for fudge sakes, I think is pretty straightforward. And if they can't pay the tithing, then just at least have the maturity to report to us, hey, we can't pay the tithing. And that's, you know, at least we have good records.
Question.
And don't
I thought-
vote if you don't tithe.
I will also add in that a lot of the ties that I did receive for spring 2023, fall 2022, were just in the ledger as X people, not as naming who was tied or who was dues paid.
Hilarious.
I have now instructed my PMs to include that data when they submit their ties.
Hmm.
Doesn't the org have the ability to generate that report?
Yes,
It does.
but very few lands actually hit their buttons on who's dues paid.
Which I don't understand. It is the most convenient way to keep track of if your players are dues paid, because you can literally go in. When I was PM, I did it at the start of the month. I'd go in, look at who was about to expire the next month over, and then I'd send them a message that said, hey, just to let you know, your dues are going to be expiring next month. If you don't care, feel free to just ignore this message. If you want to remain dues paid, send me money. So easy to do because of the orc, and like keeping a paper ledger, you have to go find the ledger, you have to look at the ledger, you have to remember where you put it. I love digital. Everything should be digital.
We're working on that.
So
All right.
it sounds like moving forward, we will instruct lands on how better practices and not hold them for the missing tithes in the past. Is that what we were looking at?
Yes,
I
but
think that's fair.
I'm going to make a recommendation that for 2024, we hold all lands accountable for tithing. Does anybody have anything against that?
I mean, I think we should start doing that in October,
Yeah, I think we
personally,
should be
but
doing that right now.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I feel that it's not a BOD action item.
Yeah, that's me.
yeah. But I don't feel, I think Paul put it the best, actually, Etah. His reasoning for it was very succinct and very well put.
So I think the last question on this is those lands that did tithe, are we looking to refund it?
No.
Okay.
No, it's what we were supposed to do. And as much as I'd love to get $100 and I think $60 something back,
For spring it would be 195. For all of 2022 would be another 420.
Yeah. As great as that'd be.
Rose, wait, Rose.
What?
Think of, we could have another BARD fighter practice paid for.
Oh my god.
Okay, I think that's all we need on this.
All right, motion to move forward.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Sure did.
All right, that was the meat and potatoes of this meeting, guys and ladies and everybody else. Everything else is going to go real fast unless people have strong opinions. But again, we can be this meeting as long as we want. Food fight.
Yeah.
Does the board of directors need to do any oversight on the kingdom or lands for donation of funds for our essentially yearly not-for-profit donation drive?
I don't believe so. It's not something that we have purview over.
So as a food fight rep, the way that this normally works is the local food fight reps will donate the money directly to the food bank and then get the receipts, which they then submit to the West March food fight rep. Anything that the West March food fight rep gets, they donate to the food bank. And then the oversight for that is actually the AmpGuard International food fight rep. And the beauty of the way the system works is none of the money actually ever is technically the park's money or West March's money or AmpGuard International's money. It all goes to the local food banks. And it's just held by, whoever's the representative in the meantime. So I don't even think AmpGuard, as a whole necessarily would have oversight, just the reps.
All right.
Yeah, I think Food Fight has its own MPO, so we don't have to worry about it at all. That is their problem to file.
I am very glad to hear that. Does anybody have anything else to say about Food Fight?
I move to table this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say from the Caporo, the only direction that this kind of comes in is if it somehow fell under a West March event, which you could potentially make an argument for, then board of directors would be responsible for contractual obligations, but other than that, there's nothing there.
I sure
Ethan
have
is
to
on
sign the
point.
contract.
That is how it got brought up, was that this was a West March event.
It's an AmpGuard event that West March participates in.
And there's a
Perfect.
bunch of other requirements for it to be counted as a West March event, which I don't think we've met most of those requirements. So
Nah. As a side note, if you are a member of West March and you haven't done the walking charity app, that is the primary way the South has been accruing points. We're up to about 250 points. All you have to do is come on and join a team, which there are no other West March parks listed on the teams. So people could easily get extra money for charity by doing that. Every 4 miles counts as 1 point.
Rose, can you
drop that
post
info
that
on
on
the
the West
Facebook.
March Facebook and Discord?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
I interrupted somebody. Somebody else go first.
I said the same thing as you. Just drop it on the Facebook.
Frankie suggested putting it on the Facebook. That's exactly what I was going to say. Can you post the link on the Facebook and the Discord, perhaps? I will make it a point to join tonight or whenever you choose to post it.
Trying to see how to do that. I had to look for it in the App Store, but I guess I could just post a picture of what it looks like.
Whatever you can do, and then everybody else can jump in on that. All right. Does anybody have anything else against motioning to move forward to the next topic?
I was going to say, actually, it's already posted by Alex Garcia on September 5th in his original
wonderful.
posting on Food Fight.
Okay,
right.
cool.
It's just a very long post, and it's like bullet point E.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, go to the West March Facebook page, September 5th. It's been posted. Join it and go walk. It's all healthy and stuff. Yay. All right. Does anybody else have anything against motioning to move forward?
No.
All right, we're going to table to October the bilingual flyer and waiver updates simply because the person working on it is not here.
Second.
West March annual budget. Help Milan finish it. That's me. I'm going to pull this up right now. Can everybody see the West March annual budget?
Yes.
All right. Does anybody know who we pay to host CA AmpGuard?
Nope.
I have that.
I think that's one of the things I volunteered to do and then forgot.
That's okay.
I believe his name cheap.
I believe so too. I've heard that. Now here's
That's
the
what the Who's
caveat.
lookup says.
I don't know how much we pay, when we pay, or anything like that. The last West March annual budget was done by Sir Fix, who did a fine job, but it was listed as 2018. So we're a little behind. So here's the type of stuff I need. I reached out to Justin Smith, who is already a busy individual. I've asked him for details about the P.O. box. Haven't gotten a response yet. I'm hoping we do. So if you're watching
we don't have
this, what's that?
We don't have one.
Yeah, we have something digital now.
No,
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I'm waiting for a response. I need to know the web hosting for CA AmpGuard. I need the USPS PO box. I need the receipts for mid-rain for spring and fall, receipts for coronation, receipts for coronation scrolls. I need Dark Shore event site fee and the Feast of Gods site fee. Basically, moving forward, I'd really like us to have, what we should already have, which is legitimate details about budgets and costs and expenditures so that somebody can go, oh yeah, well, where's your money go? We can go, well, bam, here it is. Here's everything in a clear to read scenario. So if you're watching this, please feel free to send me information about who West March pays for CAAmpGuard.com, when we pay it and how much. Same thing with this digital PO box that apparently exists that I don't even know we have access to. If you're part of Mid-Rain or anything of that nature, please tell me how much we spent in 2023. That would be amazing. I am in contact with Dark Shore and Feast of the Gods people. Dame Raven has been very helpful, as always. And then the two individuals in charge of Feast of the Gods are working on my request as well. But the budget
I
is
can
in.
bother. I can bother Kiana about mid-rain if you want me to.
Yes, please. If anybody can get me information, that would be very beneficial because I want to fill this out. And moving forward, I'm hopeful that and this is within the West March BOD parameters, we can simply ask at any point in time, how much did this cost? And we should be able to get this information.
I'm trying to look up the meeting minutes because we should have who it is that we have the post box through. The way it works is it sends the stuff directly to the treasurer, I think, and so Andy gets it.
No, it was the that was done under the preview of the Monarch at the time.
Well, no,
I
like who
know,
physically gets the mail? Because what it does is instead of sending it to a post box, it actually routes it to whoever we want.
I realized it was not me, however.
Ah,
So for CAM card, I know Dustin Gates Grix created the website, and I know at some point he turned it over to Fix.
And
I
then
don't
Fix-
know.
Correct.
Fix turned it over to Azus.
It's currently under David Zucker, Azus.
Okay.
Fix is no longer in charge of it. And James Anderson has been in contact, and I don't want to speak for James, but I believe he's been in contact with David about updating the website.
Yes, that is actually part of the Corpora amendment that we're sitting on for the following all thing to establish a digital committee of people who can help maintain that website, who actually know how it works and know the digital stuff about it.
That was not added to this board of directors meeting. The IT marketing committee is in the works. I'm going to give you this teaser now, but that's something that's coming. And there are very influential individuals that are supporting this. I believe this is something we're going to see in the future, and I fully support it. And my opinion is more important than all of yours.
It was not put on this month because it is a very meaty proposal, and we already have a very meaty Corpora fix. But yeah, it is definitely something we're looking at.
looks like according to the meeting notes, it was the January 4th meeting where we decided on what to one to go for the post box. So I'll look up the YouTube for that and watch it and tell you guys.
So much history. All right. Permission to move on to the next step, which is request for scribe.
One more thing. I cannot help with the budget until I actually get Wells Fargo access. Because right now, all I have is the emails that go to West March with, you sent X payment to PayPal.
That's okay, James. I appreciate the fact that you're even willing to assist as you have been doing. Don't worry. I expect within the month you'll have it and we'll be able to move forward. I just want to get this done before the end of the year.
Okay.
All right. We're going to move on to request for scribe. This is me very simply stating, I want a scribe. Somebody out there knows somebody who's artsy and creative and likes to write. If they do, please have them contact me, or Andy, or Paul, or Rose, or James. We should have a scribe. There's somebody out there that likes to write poetry or something of that nature. Get in contact with us. Join us. We have fun.
Are you referring to the other offices outlined in the Corpora or something? Okay.
Now, do we want to try and put the newsletter under the BOD? Because right now it's under the PM and it's mostly not done, the scribe or the newsletter.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a BOD issue, but
it's not whatsoever. That's just me saying I want a scribe. The scribe can be created by the prime minister at any point in time, who serves on the BOD. So technically, it's the BOD.
Well, I tried and mine stopped showing up, so I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else.
The previous prime minister nominated a scribe who was very excited about it, and as soon as they were nominated, was the very last time they ever came out to Amtgard. So I'm not saying This is a cursed position, but I am saying. All right, motion to move forward.
Sure.
Seconded.
All right, Feast of the Gods. It exists. Where's the budget and expenditures? If anybody has any leads on what the costs are for Feast of the Gods, please let me know. I need to add it as per the monarch to the budget. And it's also something that we should have records of. And this is also my way of subtly teasing that Feast of the Gods is coming soon. Buy your tickets and go, for Lord's sake. Anybody have any statements on Feast of the Gods?
So far, it has been $50 that I spent on flagging tape and wristbands.
So I know expenses were incurred. The way it's being handled is that each crat is incurring their own expenses and they'll be calculated all later.
Whew, that is rough. That is a rough way to do an event.
Yeah, that's not how it ever should go moving forward. I'm going to say, and I want everybody to listen to me on this. I don't care who you are. That is not how you run an event. You submit documents and and West March pays for it. There should never be anybody ever incurring their own expenses. For a nonprofit, that is the largest fudging red flag. And I would curse right now if I could. But no.
Food
Full
does tend to
stop,
work that
never.
way.
Yeah.
What's that?
Food does tend to work that way, but not any of the other expenditures.
Food is
And I encourage
submitted.
James and Dagger here to correct me if I said anything wrong there, but I believe that is the way it's being handled.
Food is submitted for approval before anybody pays for it. If you submit for approval and you get the approval, then you can use your own funds. That's fine. But there needs to be an approved invoice on file before anybody spends any money.
I know that there was a estimate on the cost broken down when they put in their bid. I am not involved in the financials or much of the setup of the event myself.
Autocrats
I
tend
did
to be
try to
given a
ping
pretty
Blood
wide
Wolf
latitude.
earlier to hopefully have him be able to come into this meeting because I saw it was on the schedule, but he didn't look like he was online to see it.
Minor correction, by the way. There are two ways to be refunded for an event. One of them is for an invoice, and the other is for turning in receipts.
Absolutely. Turning in receipts is fine, but
it's going to be rough doing it that way with everybody, just because it's going to be hard to get a cogent ledger at the end. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just going to be, that's a rough way to do it is all.
I think this makes a situation where autocrats are thrown to the fire, and we've seen situations already where individuals such as the champion of West March have had to come up with $100 out of their own pocket just because funding wasn't approved. And that's the sort of thing where we're trying to avoid. I wish that we could find a pathway, and maybe our corpora doesn't allow for it. I'll fully acknowledge that. But submitting receipts, hey, I just went ahead and spent $500 with no approval. Please refund me. Is a giant red flag.
I know in the past there was discussion of getting a prepaid card equal to their bid statement.
Yes.
For each event. I am still in favor of that.
Super in favor of that, because there's no reason a kingdom that has 2 bank accounts set up specifically for events should have people paying out of pocket for stuff that they have stated they'll need.
I remember that the only complaint about that was, and I think this was from Blood Wolf and Dratz actually, was that it becomes hard for just the autocrat to hold the card if 4 people under them need to each use the card. But I'm not sure that there's a better answer to that.
I disagree. I don't know. That sounds like a weird answer to me. As someone that's run more than one
And there's
event.
no reason that West March couldn't make 4 cards and just say, here's your food card because you estimated $1,200 on food and X number of dollars on whatever.
The worst
they're all
case
prepaid
scenario
cards. You can get as many as you want.
Yeah, in the worst case scenarios, we can do a prepaid card and provide the prepaid cards at the end of the day, or we can simply approve the expenditures before the funding is spent. That's how every company in the world works, and I have no idea why we're allowing people to just carte blanche invoice us. That's a terrible plan.
So up through now, autocrats are given a very wide latitude. You're given the event, and then you have to account for it afterwards. That's the way it's always been done. I don't think it's the best way to do it. So I brought it up for the BOD to be more involved, especially with contracts.
I mean, they submit a budget before anything else is done, and then we don't give them any money for that budget, so they end up paying stuff out of pocket, and that just doesn't seem right with me.
I think what I would like to see, if we could do it, if we could do it under our mandate, and if we could do it organizationally, is make it to where an autocrat is only responsible for stuff that day. They're responsible for the games and gate and food, and they don't have to worry about event insurance or site contract stuff. I think that could be decided before the event, just like it was Dark Shore, I think, where the monarchy said the event will be at King City on this date. That's what you're bidding for. And I thought that was a wonderful way to do it.
Yeah. That actually brings up something I've been wondering about. Is there any reason we don't have like event insurance set up yearly where it renews, seeing as we have yearly events we know we're gonna have? Like, why are the reps having to go? Well, like I have.
We looked at that.
Yearly insurance costs more money than paying for per event.
Wait, everybody, Jody's here. Quiet. Don't stop talking about it. Hi, Jody. We weren't talking about you.
Well, I mean, we could pay for those 2 days ahead of time, and instead of having the event rats like be the ones
Also,
to hunt down the insurance company, West March, we could just, say, hey, we're West March. These are events that we have, insurance companies that we work with yearly because we have these events every 6 months. Here's the year's worth of, insurance for these 2 events. Like, I don't understand why the autocrats would need to secure insurance if it's something that happens every year and West March knows is going to happen.
So I appreciate you inviting me and recognizing me, but I'm not a member of the BOD. So I'm not sure if I need to be included or if you need my input. I just wanted to kind of
your input, and
hang out and see what you guys are doing.
Whatever you want.
Okay, so can you scroll down to the events? The event. Sorry, I was in another class and I'm just kind of trying to get caught up. So the way I thought that we had looked into, as the BOD, having insurance year round for like West March insurance, and it would include the events as well as parks and kind of an umbrella. But I don't remember. I think Allura was working on that last I was involved, as far as getting an insurance company to look at insurance for basically West March as a whole on an annual basis. And that would include the event insurance.
She was indeed looking into that, and she was going to present it back last December, I believe. I don't know if that ever actually happened.
I was just browsing the meeting notes, and it didn't.
That was kind of what I remembered, so that's good. And then the other thing was Paul's comment about the way that we've always done things is the site fee and whatever it was you said, Paul, basically comes out of the event budget, and we put forward a bid, and the site fee, the event insurance, and all of that comes out of the event budget, and then feast costs, if we need money ahead of time, either comes out of prepays, which I haven't really heard mentioned, or it comes out of the Dark Shore or Feast of Gods budget ahead of time, and then the people are reimbursed based on receipts. And that's always been the way that it is been done since I've been involved. I don't know about like the cards and all of that. I know that there's been discussion about contracts and the BOD being involved in the contracts with, for example, the Monterey Parks Department. But in my opinion, it's really difficult for somebody that's not the autocrat to be working with the Parks Department and submitting all of the forms and documents that they need to be able to get approval and funding sent to them from a BOD perspective. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And it also kind of, it's not the BOD's job to take over or oversee what the autocrat is doing. Absolutely not whatsoever. We don't want to interact and make things harder for the autocrat. Not whatsoever. It's just about the funding and who's paying what to who. George only has a few minutes. I'd like to give the floor to him. The biggest question we have is what, and please, anybody else ask questions. George, what's been the biggest issues, if any, for making payments and getting funding approval for a large event such as Feast of the Gods?
He put in chat that he can't unmute, so he may not be able to answer.
All right, don't worry about it, George. Thank you anyways. Jody, you ran Dark Shore, if I remember correctly, for this spring, and please tell me if I'm wrong. So I'll ask you the same question. What was the biggest issue that you had about submitting invoices, getting payments, and what recommendations, if any, would you make?
So
or
the biggest
change?
issue with Dark Shore last year was actually the time constraints of the Parks Department. They lagged behind me. And then there the like the surprise, there's always a surprise, right? So the surprise was, hey, we have a public meeting where all of these event coordinators need to meet in a public online format to propose their event. And if there's any public questions or anything that need to be asked by the Parks Department or the public, here's the thing. And so I presented the Dark Shore and there weren't any questions, but I don't know if it was because it was new, but the timing of that was so close to the event date that by the time we got that finalized and they got all the paperwork done, submitting payment to them ran up against a deadline. And so we weren't able to pay by a check or to pay far enough ahead of time to avoid a transaction fee. It was within a short period of time. And I don't remember right now, but it was like debit or credit card. We couldn't use, and I may be wrong, we couldn't use a debit card. Okay. So we had to use the other one. And there was a $75 fee, transaction fee, that we had to pay. And I actually just got word from Donna, who's been awesome. And it was really kind of beyond the Monterey County Parks Department. It was beyond them because it basically was a charge by the credit card company. So that $75 fee was like non-refundable. And so there wasn't really anything that we could do about that. So it was kind of a cluster. That, as far as organizing the event, event helper for the insurance, that's a piece of cake. The documents and everything with the Monterey County Parks Department for the site haven't changed since 2019, I think it was, or whenever the Game of Thrones Dark Shore was. So that wasn't an issue, but the timing and that like surprise have to show up on Zoom and talk to the public cost us $75 that I couldn't get back.
Yeah, and that's going to be the same thing this time, if you guys can hear me or
Yep.
see
Yeah,
me.
you were
And
there.
George,
You were
you have
there.
the floor.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
there. So, yeah, thanks for the event helper, because I do still need to get our insurance for the event, because I haven't done that yet.
The event
I
But
can
yeah,
help you with that if you want.
yeah, that would be great. So yeah, I've been in contact with the Parks Department, and they finally told me that they were getting our event permit worked on last week. So she said she would have it to me sometime this week, so I know how much we have to pay, and all that. And then our meeting hasn't been scheduled yet, so it'll probably be next week before the end of the month. I hope so. But last time they invited me to it, they invited me to the August one the day of, and I was working. So I asked them to reschedule it to September.
Yeah, and so we may have to pay that fee again, and that's really not the Monterey County Parks Department's fault. Well, question mark. But we may still have to pay that fee because we're running out of time to send them a check and the transaction
Right.
fee for the type of card.
Otherwise, I haven't really had trouble with funding. I mean, we haven't bought a lot of stuff. Obviously, all the money is going directly into the account. So that's easy. We don't have any money that's not just going straight to the West March account. I'm sure we go ahead.
It was brought up, I think, before you arrived. What would you think of us issuing here is a prepaid card for the amount of your bid? Would that be useful to you?
Yeah, I think that would be great. That would be helpful. I mean, it puts people on a budget, and then you can see how much you're spending. And then, if the card gets low and there are additional expenses that are unexpected, then that gives a person time to come to the BOD and request additional funds. Because, you're doing a bid, it's an estimate. Things come up that end up costing more than expected.
Absolutely.
But also, I think the event brings in more than it costs. So it should work out.
So I think where we were with Dark Shore is with the prepays. And we relied on the Dark Shore account funds. I don't know that we really needed a card because of the way that we set it up. I wasn't directly involved with what Leon and Monica did, but we didn't really, I don't know that we needed that. And I don't know what Feast of Gods is doing, but the way that we set it up, it seemed, and the prepays, we seemed to pretty much be okay with the expenses we had.
Right. And it was a reimbursement process, right?
Yeah, it was. I think that we did the prepay, and then we did take money out of the West March, the Dark Shore account for food. And then everything went back into our Dark Shore account. And then people did submit receipts for reimbursement afterwards. Save your receipts.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing, and I've been trying to order stuff, through Thistle. So just having him order stuff straight through the account, is one method, but that's, extra work on him. Food, I think that's just, I mean, if we, again, having a card would make food easier and we wouldn't have to do the reimbursement piece for food, because I think that's the one thing that, right, we can't necessarily buy too far in advance for the meats and stuff that would go bad.
Well,
but
if we have a proper
everything else,
if we have a proper purchase order, then we can provide either a prepaid card or we can authorize reimbursement. Bless you, Jody.
Oh, sorry.
And authorize, nobody heard you, don't worry. We can either authorize reimbursement if we have a proper purchase order, or we can provide a prepaid card. Either way is fine. It's just knowing in advance what funding is being spent is what's important. And what I really want to drive home to all of you, that's the one thing that I have a lot of experience on, is make sure things get approved in advance. You avoid a lot of issues that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a school principal and a special ed director, so I'm all about having things and expenses approved in advance. So I think that's
George
why.
has been great with that, actually. I'd like to publicly state that. Every time I've asked you a question, you've been on top of it, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, so I really do think the card makes everybody's life easier. For like, the incidental expenses, the small little things. But also, as things come up in planning, oh, well, we need a book of maps because this battle game idea requires a book of maps. It's $11. Like, right? So just being able to put something like that on the credit card on Amazon when you order it is much easier than having to do a receipt or an invoice. So I think, stuff like that for like the incidental battle game items or costumes, having a credit card with whatever amount for that makes budgeting that simple. And then obviously for the big expense, like the park, I think that handling that directly through the BOD makes more sense. Or the insurance, for instance.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that very much. So I think moving forward, if a autocrat requests a prepaid card, I think that's something that could be discussed and could be potentially approved, or just getting them their own card. Is there value to that? Is that something that is something the BOD should discuss, or is that a prime minister thing? Like, where are we at on that? Like, if an autocrat requests a prepaid card, hey, I got my budget approved, give me a prepaid card so I can pay for all this stuff. Is that a prime minister thing or a BOD thing?
Probably be a prime minister thing, but I mean, it depends on.
Or a treasurer thing.
Well, I mean,
So
both me and both the treasurer and the prime minister should have the same access.
Yeah. And where's that Corpora?
from the Corpora perspective, it's primarily the prime minister because it just says receipt of invoice or receipt. So you could have the event write an invoice saying we need $500 for food as per our bid, depending on how formal you need that invoice. The weird one actually is that court feast is actually handled by the regent.
Court feast at the event or court feast at like.
It just says under West March events, it says, bullet point 3. So section 2, bullet point 3, West March Prime Minister will disperse funds upon receipt of invoice or receipts. 3A, West March Court and court feasts are at the discretion of the West March Regent, who has first right of refusal.
Doesn't the regent not have a draw? It's the prime minister and monarch.
Correct.
100%.
Yes, but apparently the regent has veto power.
Yes.
Super interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I get
guess
why, because technically the regent is in charge of events, but I think maybe we should take them out of West March events.
I think that's a holdover from when they were running mid-range. Well, they still run mid-range, but
it's also one of only 2 usage of the word court in the entire Corpora, which is the other one is in order of succession, where it says other court positions have order of succession as well. So it may just be an old holdover.
So are we discussing this in the context of events still, or have we moved on to a different topic?
Specifically in the context of events, of who has the discretion to approve spending and how they disperse that funding. And it sounds like it's basically the prime minister, but the regent may have some approval power on one particular aspect of the event.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add before I have to hop off is that if you do a prepaid card of some sort, that it should have a way for you, obviously for the BOD or the prime minister, to know what's been spent on it and get receipts, because prepaid cards are notoriously easy to embezzle funds, and you don't want that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's why Open Unified had to take credit cards away from all the principals.
So yeah, if we can find some that have built-in ledgers that are viewable by the issuer.
Yep. I'm sure they exist.
All right.
I can look into that.
In the
Taylor,
interest of time, because I said I would keep this to an hour and we are already over an hour, I'd like to move forward with permission from everybody else.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Table until the next meeting.
bye-bye.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody go to Feast of the Gods. I will not be there because I'm going to Great Western War. Yes, I know I'm a terrible person. But yeah.
I'm considering going to Feast of God. I'm
You
mulling it over.
should. Be
You
my
better fucking
representative.
go to Feast of Gods, dude.
No,
Ah!
just call in and video stream your knighting.
I will
I'm so-
hunt you down.
Between all the 12 things Paul does, I'm shocked he finds time to do Amtgard. All right. So, Kapora Task Force, there's a Facebook group. They do really good things. If you have an interest in supporting the updates of the Kapora, which we so desperately need, please reach out to your monarchy and offer assistance. The West
Wait, hold on.
March.
I don't think there's a Facebook page, but there's a Facebook Messenger group.
I apologize. Can everybody see the itinerary for West March BoD? Is that the screen I'm sharing currently?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I misspoke. Thank you, Jody. As always, you're right. There's a Facebook group, not a page. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I am not always right. It just Ethan helped me solidify that concept today or yesterday, whenever it was.
Good point. Let me put that in there. Ethan pointed out Jody is often wrong.
He actually joined the Corpora group, so that was cool.
He did, and that's actually what brought up this to being added to the meeting, just because we've had so many people post on social media, hey, I've got this idea for the Kapora, and it kind of clutters social media, in my opinion. I think if there's a Kapora task force, maybe that's where a lot of the conversation should be narrowed. That's just my personal opinion. This is from the monarchy. The wonderful St. Kaya has requested that the code of conduct be reviewed and updated. They would love if there were interested parties to review and update and modernize the West March Code of Conduct, which is the kind of listed on the CA Amtgard website as the complaint handbook. Do we have anybody interested in reviewing that and potentially modernizing it? I'm seeing at least one hand. Jody, you have the floor.
I am all over that. I actually was one of the original group that drafted that document. And I think it's a crucial, it's not really part of the corpora, but it's a crucial accessory document for investigations and COC reviews. So I will be in contact with the Queen and will help spearheading getting that going again. I think that we did the first version, and then when I was monarch, that was one of the too many committees that I did, and it was too much. But I do think that it needs to be revised and create a version 2. So I will work on that.
I suggest Downfall and Victoria both be involved.
They were actually Downfall. That's a good point. Downfall actually crafted the original draft that we used as an outline. And Victoria, I think she was involved at the time, but I definitely think that she was involved in our attempt at a V2, but then it just kind of fell apart. I don't remember why, maybe a change of monarchy. But I'll work on that. Ita, do you want to
Wonderful.
be a part?
I always try to involve an attack librarian. That's what I call lawyers.
Okay.
I also would like to volunteer. Jody,
Sweet.
please feel free to spearhead it. And if you can't, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I would like to be a part of the COC review and update.
Beautiful.
All right.
Next, one thing, just to clarify for the minutes and posterity, this is a update and review of the complaint violation handbook, not the actual code of conduct, because that is a rulebook change if we wanted to review that.
No, correct. It's the COC handbook. It's the outline by which we handle investigations.
AmpGuard International is actually, they already have a task force that is reviewing the rulebooks COC, and rules reps are looking into whatever we have say over that as well. So
Yeah.
rulebook 1 is also getting worked on.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
Victoria is involved in that, so she might be able to help you guys communicate with that thing.
Well, I remember when we first made it, some of the other kingdoms had reached out to us and asked us to share the document. And the document, I believe, is on CA AmpGuard in the
It is.
documents page. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it's been shared, and Victoria's pretty instrumental also, so that's cool. Oh,
But I do agree with James. We need to be careful about the wording we use here because code of conduct is specifically called out in our corpora and in the rules of play, and so we need to make sure that we're not saying we're updating those.
right, I believe our document says COC handbook.
I believe
Yeah, people just keep on saying when they're referring to it, updating COC and then leaving off the handbook.
Handbook, yeah.
All right. So
I
we need to
believe-
rename it.
It could be like
Um,
a disciplinary review handbook or something.
Its
actually
official
the-
title is West March Code of Conduct Complaint Handbook.
Yes, thank you. I knew the word complaint was in there somewhere.
That should be pretty self-explanatory. If people can't read the additional 3 or 4 words after that, then that's on them. My opinion. Go ahead. Victoria.
As long as we don't fly in the ire of AmpGuard International, that's all I care about. Motion to move forward from the code of conduct
Seconded.
handbook.
Second,
Thank you. I'd like to motion that we table the monarchy test discussion to October because I promised I would keep this meeting short.
Second,
Paragon rules update. This one we cannot table. I'm going to do a brand new screen share after the chat. Paul Wilkins. Paul Wilkins wants to volunteer for the page you are in the group. I'm assuming that's about the Kapora Task Force, Paul?
Yeah.
And
no,
Frankie?
I was joking. Yeah. They said the Kapora Task Force page, and I was like, "There's a page. I want to
Yeah.
join." And they're like, "There's no page. It's a group. I'm already in the group."
My apologies. I missed the joke. Frankie, I will link you the Kapora chat if Jody doesn't do it before me. All right, I'm going to share a brand new screen. The Paragon rules are right here. An incredibly handsome bard wrote these. I won't say who that person is. These are the bylaws for the Circle of Paragons.
Awesome.
Technically, I have been told the board of directors has to approve these. These are posted on the Discord. I will be posting them on the Facebook page after this meeting if they are approved. James says that Frankie has already been added to the Kapora task force. Does anybody want to read through these, or would they like me to read through them?
you go ahead.
Thanks, Rose. You're great. The Westmarch Circle of Paragons shall be comprised of all Paragons who are members of Westmarch and are members of no other kingdom. They shall evaluate potential members of the circle based upon 3 separate categories: class knowledge, application, presentation. The West March Circle of Paragons will meet when requested by the monarchy to discuss a prospective member. There are no set parameters for time frame or method of meeting. The monarchy may choose to move forward with a Paragon decision, regardless of actions of the Circle of Paragons. To be eligible to vote on prospective Paragons, a member of the Circle of Paragons must be considered an active voting member as per the Corpora at the time of voting. If a prospective member is deemed to have met all requirements to be granted Paragon, the West March Circle of Paragon shall give its recommendations to the current West March monarchy. The Circle of Paragon shall elect a speaker during crown elections, who will host meetings and serve as a point of contact for the monarchy. Due to the size and distance of West March from north to south, or as I like to say, from Sacktown way up and back down, the speaker will be responsible for encouraging the correct voices to speak up about potential Paragons. This document does not have to be rubber stamped, but the Circle of Paragons said this document works well for us. So I have two questions. The first question is, do we want to approve it and just say fine? Or would we like to take more time to review this in greater detail? Thank you, Paul. California does know how to party.
So-
I would like to point out two minor things in possible conflict with the Corpora.
Let's hear it.
So the first is that it's the first sentence about no other kingdom. The way the Corpora words it is just all members who are a member of West March or its sponsored chapters. It doesn't say anything about being excluded from other kingdoms.
So
For the Circle of Paragons?
For the Circle of Paradigm. Yeah, the Corpora section 9 under what chapter is that? Article 4. It only has like
Okay.
3 sentences on Circle of
So
Paragons.
what if I did this? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, so the exact wording out of the Corpora is the Circle of Paragons shall consist of all Paragons who are members of West March or its sponsored chapters.
What section is that? Can you give it to me so I can pull it up?
That is Article 4, Section 9, Circle of Paragons.
I'm not going to screen share this just out of time frames. If somebody wants me to share it, please let me know. The Circle of Paragons shall consist of all Paragons who are a member of West March or its sponsored chapters. So I'm going to say, or its sponsored chapters. That way we're in line with the Corpora.
Wrong version of it.
Jody, you were the best. Bye.
What are you saying, Andy?
That was the wrong version of it.
Ethan, you said you had two issues?
Yeah.
Thank you,
waiting for this
Scoot.
one.
Thank you, Andy.
So the other one is talking about what, so the bylaws will stipulate that a vote, so it specifically says the bylaws have to stipulate that a vote for from the circle to successfully verify the credentials of a Paragon candidate will be a simple majority. So at no point in this document did I see that the vote is a simple majority and not a 2/3 or a supermajority.
Ethan, are you a Paragon?
I am the person probably most interested in making sure that this document gets done because I'm not a Paragon, but I'm up for being Paragon, and I keep being told the Circle of Paragons needs to be reformed.
Hey,
So-
Sebastian, come down to SoCal. We'll take care of you, buddy.
So
Andrew,
One
I disagree
question-
strongly with that statement.
one question I have is how do they figure that out? Like the
Figured what out?
2/3 majority thing. Is there something in here that outlines creating a list of eligible to vote members that they are supposed to use to figure out if they have the simple majority? Because I know they've done some votes in it already, and I've seen like maybe 3 or 4 people actually vote, and then everyone else was silent. And that doesn't feel like a majority was saying yes. Not necessarily that a majority was saying no either, but it was a lot of not answers. And from my
Abstaining
understanding,
is a vote. Silence is not a vote. You have to abstain. You have to either vote or not vote. You can't, I'm sorry, you have to vote or abstain. You can't not vote. The vote cannot be completed without all people voting or abstaining.
yeah.
Did we
Well,
ever
like-
get it clarified if it was going to be any Paragon or if it's only Paragons of that class? Because I remember that question came up in those discussions.
The
The person
bylaws
who
submitted by
wrote-
the Circle of Paragons do not stipulate class.
Yeah, the person who specifically drafted this document said he intentionally wanted anyone from any class to do it, like who drafted the original one.
Knights vote on all prospective knights. We don't vote by what kind of knight we are, so I wouldn't assume Paragon would be any different.
I was the one who wrote the Circle of Paragon bylaws, and it was all Paragons can vote on all Paragons.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't clear on the last two votes that happened. Like it actually said, and only people who are of this class vote on it. So I think that's why you probably didn't get a bunch of votes.
Yeah, which is completely valid. But I also, when reviewing that and seeing the subsequent conversation, had the thought of like, how do we tell what a majority is? Like, are we going to have a running list? Is that something that should be codified into their, rules document? Or is that something that every speaker liaise-faire is going to come up with?
I would assume that we'd have to, or whoever is running the Paragon Circle would need to go to the West March Prime Minister and be like, hey, can I get a list of voting eligible people?
Well, I can.
Which is messy, but
The Orc will spit out a report of all the Paragons in the kingdom, but I would have to cross-reference on seeing which ones are voting eligible.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is important to bring up that the monarchy can choose to make somebody a Paragon with or without the Circle of Paragons.
The bylaws specify that it is a recommendation.
Yeah.
Not the bylaws,
not
for us.
Yeah. I'm not even touching on that aspect at all. I'm just touching on, it says we need a simple majority to vote. Is there anything that outlines for the speaker how to tell if he has a majority, what process to follow to certify that there's a majority? Because if he's having to contact the prime minister, I feel like that should probably be in there somewhere, that the speaker will contact the prime minister for a list of, probably have the speaker
The PM is not required.
list. Well, the PM
anybody can go to the org and ask for a list of class Paragon Masters, and it will give it to you. You do not even need to be logged in.
No, but
you have to be dues paid.
Dues paid.
There's nothing in here that says they have to be dues paid.
They have to be voting members.
And that's what our corpora says a voting member is.
We have several individuals in here who are Paragons. I was informed that the Circle of Paragons reviewed these bylaws and said they were good and submitted them to the board of directors for approval. I have two people who are speaking up saying they don't like these laws. So were you part of the conversation that submitted these bylaws to me saying they were approved or not? I'm specifically speaking to Andy and Rose, who are against these bylaws at this very moment, after I was informed that they were in favor of everything in the bylaws. I want a yes or no answer.
Sorry, go ahead, Rose.
It's a simple statement. Were these bylaws presented to you at any point in time before this board of directors meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Did you say that these were fine?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we submit these back to the Circle of Paragons and table this until October? Since it's obvious that you guys aren't in favor of this document.
I'm not necessarily not in favor. I'm asking opinions of the board of directors for the board of directors' opinion on that, as it is something that occurred to me recently with the discussion that was held on voting in the Circle of Paragons. At the time that I reviewed it at first, we had not actually had any votes, so it hadn't occurred to me how that would work.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
just to bring up the purpose of bringing this to the board of directors to verify for legality that it does not conflict with the corpora, which this, as far as I can tell, no longer conflicts with the corpora after those two minor corrections.
Thank you, Ethan.
Okay. And that's more what I was trying to get, like, did the members of the BoD feel that the issue of voting was something that would fall under BoD purview of saying, hey, you don't have this, or is it something that the Paragon should take up ourselves?
I believe that our purview here as the BOD is to make sure that this does not violate the rules of play, the corpora, or any mundane law.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I was genuinely concerned that you guys weren't presented this form and I was informed correctly that the Paragons had not seen this document before. That would have been very surprising. So thank you very much for clarifying that. That makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
No, we were definitely presented it. And like
Good.
I said, it was just because we had a vote recently. And then I was like, huh, there's a thing I didn't think of when reviewing it when we submitted it. But if the BOD doesn't feel it's in that vein, I think it's something we maybe will need to take up for revision with the Paragons, possibly.
Can the bylaws of the Paragons be updated, or is this can't be a final document? The Paragons can update this whenever they want, I would assume.
Every time they update, it has to be reapproved by the board of directors just to check for legality, but that's the only requirement in the corpora.
Sounds fine to me. Is there anything on here, Rose, that you would want changed hypothetically at this very moment?
So everything that's on there, I am absolutely fine with. Like I said, the only thing I had was after we had the whole voting thing, I was like, huh.
Right here. Yeah.
Additional thing that, didn't occur to me when I was looking at it. Because I kind of just assumed, which is really bad, that it would follow the same kind of like process as, an all thing or an election in the rest of West March. And so I was kind of thrown aback by the way that they were doing the voting, if that makes sense, because it didn't really follow the same way.
And I can see where you're going there from there, because like in the corpora, again, it's just like it will consist of all Paragons. It does not make a mention of voting members. In fact, there is no mention of the Paragon required to be a voting member, or even an active member, actually, in West March right now, according to the corpora. So I can see where you're coming from on that question.
The West March Circle of Paragons shall be comprised of all Paragons who are a member of West March or its sponsors' chapters. You don't have to be a dues paid voting member to be a member of West March. That is accurate. And that was done on purpose so people didn't have to be dues paid to be a part of the Circle of Paragons.
Correct.
They just have to be dues paid to vote.
Nothing about that in the corpora.
To be eligible to vote on prospective Paragons, a member of the West March Circle of Paragons must be considered an active voting member as per the West March corpora at the time of voting. This would mean you would have to be dues paid.
Okay.
So non-voting Paragons would be able to voice opinions on the matter, but not vote on it.
That's correct. And that was written very specifically because we do not want to punish Paragons if they cannot afford to be dues paid. Nobody should ever be chastised for not making a payment. There are plenty of other ways to be supportive in West March.
I feel like my answer was, my question was answered, so I'm good with that. Though I am noticing there's 2 4s. Is that on purpose?
There are 2 4s.
Yes, that is done on purpose.
Should one of them maybe be 4A and 4B then?
No, I think that should just be 5 and 6. I do this stuff on my lunch break, all right? Okay. I'm very happy to hear that y'all were able to review this before. I was genuinely concerned that this was the first time y'all were seeing it. Anyways. All right. Ethan, you are a boon. You're not allowed to miss the October or November or December board of directors meeting. So clear your schedule.
Do what I can.
Sure, sounds like somebody who should run for the next term.
Yeah.
I think declarations open up in 2 weeks. You may see my name.
There you go. Good answer.
The BOD is every year, so it doesn't open until December. But if you want to run for Kingdom,
yeah.
I would totally
You
go for
could
that.
always run for Monarch and then, you get a position on here as well. So double positions.
I believe that's the next agenda item, in fact.
Hey, look at that. All right. So, do I have a motion to table the Paragon rules to October? Do I have a motion to approve the Paragon rules for September? I don't care either way.
I move to approve the Paragon rules as currently presented.
I move to approve. Or second.
Being that you two are the actual Paragons on the board, although James might be a Paragon archer.
Nope, not yet.
Yep, that's okay. I'm fine with it if everybody else is.
Yay.
Well done. Please know, of course, the Paragons can update their own rules whenever they want.
It just has to be approved by the BOD again.
Yep, that's fine. Digital waiver update. We have a month of subscription. The digital waivers are on the October all thing. So please get the word out. I think it's a good thing. I think it's something we should do. The 2024 BOD, it's almost here. Start discussing with yourselves whether or not you want to be part of the 2024 board of directors, or if maybe you're scratching your beard currently and thinking about running.
I will let you know I will be here in January.
That is a bold statement, Prime Minister. If you don't want to be a part of the 2024 board of directors, you shouldn't feel bad about that. You served for a full year and you are already amazing. But try and find a replacement for yourself. Paul is going to push his squire to run. That's a bold statement since you're not a knight. Anyways. All right. Do we have any topics that should be added to October? Does anybody want to say, hey, let's talk about something in October at this point in time? Silence is perfectly acceptable.
B9 class playtest will be out mid-October. Oh my god, I'm going to have a huge target on my head that entire time.
And the first round is going to be rough.
But it's after feast, right?
Yes, they said at the earliest, mid to late October.
So-
Definitely by the end of October.
The coronation.
Isn't that November?
Yes.
Which is after mid-October.
Oh, okay.
Which Crimsonwood is hosting, and I'm already planning to run some V9 battle games at.
What's the date for Northern Coronation?
15? There's a Facebook event for it. Let me go find it.
It's either the 11th or the 18th. That would be the weekend.
I mean, we're looking at the 11th right now, but
All right. I am a horrible liar. I said we would keep this meeting to an hour, and we're pushing, and we're over an hour and a half.
yeah, it's a
November
standard
18th.
BOD
Yeah,
meeting.
November 18th for Crimsonwood.
Okay.
Crimson Hood. All right. Schedule for October meeting. We've been doing Tuesday pretty successfully, although Paul is always in his car. Do we want to do a Wednesday this time?
Yes,
Andy and Rose, can you do a Wednesday?
Yeah.
I
Most of the
would
time.
prefer Wednesdays.
All right.
Wednesdays are
So
fun.
October 11th, 18th, or 25th?
I think 11th we still might be tired from feast, so let's go with 18th.
You're gonna
Do
be
we
tired
maybe do
from feast on a
25th then?
Wednesday?
6 p.m.
Sure.
Love it.
Would it be better to do the 25th and then we can give the event a little time to maybe submit stuff before we have the meeting?
Wait. Fine with me if it's fine for everybody else.
Is the 25th good for everyone?
Silence is a
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
I learned that in
Yeah.
college. All right. Does anybody have anything against adjourning the meeting?
Nope.
Get Eric his gift card.
What's that?
Oh,
Get
yeah.
Eric his gift card for attending.
That's a good point. Frankie, how many gift cards have you gotten?
Just one.
All right. Well, then, is it going to be Ethan or Eric? I think we should do a coin flip.
I don't know what this is.
I don't either.
You get
So
a gift card, possibly if you are a guest. Sorry.
All right.
you entered to run for a gift card.
I have two dice. One of the dice is blue. One of the dice is not blue. Ethan, I think you were here first. Do you want the blue die or do you want the silver die? Clear die.
Let's go blue. I'm wearing blue today. Why not?
All right. So, Eric, this is your die. This is your die. I'm going to wait. We're going to do the
This is becoming way more elaborate than I was expecting.
we're doing the dice tower.
This is the most important part of every BOD meeting now.
That is true. That is true. The
I
dice
was
go
not
in.
aware of this
the,
part of the BOD meeting.
the dice don't lie.
We can't see it.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's coming in.
Oh, someone won.
All right.
Nat 20.
A nat 20 and a 6. Nat 20 don't lie. Sorry, Eric. No
Depends
love
on who
for
made the
you.
die.
Belial Peaks is probably going to get a gift card if the monarchy chooses to be gracious and kind. There we go.
That's Eric Magneto, right?
Yes, it
Yep.
is.
If you're really hurting for a gift card, Eric, just talk to me. I'll get you something.
I certainly won't.
Yeah.
I think I
I know.
have a Starbucks gift card in my car that I got given for Christmas like 3 years ago from my work.
There we go.
Good thing you
I
live in
have some
California.
Kohl's
Never
cash.
expires.
Yeah. That one was really funny because we had a gift exchange and everyone got each other Starbucks gift cards. And then we all remembered that none of us go to Starbucks.
Yeah,
All
can I
right.
put a motion in for the gift cards to start being for Amplified equipment? Like maybe we can get Bacchus to sell a
Honestly-
sword.
Honestly, I had thought that they were Joanne's gift cards or something.
I don't know what they are. We'll have to ask St. Kaya. I think it should be her fuzzy tech stuff personally.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, mine was just a Starbucks.
I'm going to motion that we adjourn the meeting. Pretty please.
Second,
Second.